Hi, Mitchell here with Running Coalescence, and today we're going to talk about charts, graphs, etc. So, one thing that I see people do all the time is they will use their phones, watches, things like that to record their mileage. Now, this is great for an initial, but it's really hard to look at the data in the long term. So you may know something if you are going run by run, same distance, and then reviewing it 3 months, 4 months, 6 months down the road. But you're looking at just a very narrow fraction of the overall data that's available to what's going on. The best way to put it is you'll see your kind of oversimplified general trend, but that's it. You won't see much more than that. And there is so much data that you can get from having your runs individually recorded and then put into charts, into Excel sheets. Now, what I like to do is I will use, there is a program, and since I'm not going to say what program it is, but I use a running app program where I constantly put in my mileage, and then it gives me the average month of the total mileage and the total time ran, and it goes, okay, here's what you ran for this month, and I take that data. But about as far as tracking it on my iPad, phone, anything like that, that's as far as I go when I just stop, because they're really, you'll see the charts that I'm referring to, and you'll go, holy cow, there's a lot more data here than. But again, all this data that I have is one day at a time. Distance, time, distance, time, distance, time, again and again and again. And I've been doing it with this log for over 2 years, but there's a part that you'll see in a little bit where I've been doing it since 2006, and I still have the monthly average kind of scarce, but they are there. I have the yearly average kind of scarce, but they're there. And so we're going to kind of jump into my log so you can kind of get an idea of what you should be doing with your mileage long term and then short term. Okay. This is and this is probably what I should start the video off of, realistically. I'm going to be showing a lot of charts in here, but this is probably the most important one that if anybody's going to make anything of these, this would be the most important one. A lot of people take their distances and their time and they write them next to each other. They write them down going vertically, okay? So they'll literally be like the distance and then the time right next to it, okay? Distance, time, distance, time. And they'll just go down the log or the sheet of paper doing that. Okay, that's great that you are recording it, but let's say you start comparing those distances against each other. And that's where you start having a hard time. Because now you took your 5 mile and you slapped it in the same line as your 8 mile. Well, you'll go in your head, well, my 5 mile will be slightly faster than my 8 mile. And then you go, oh, okay, I want to compare it to a 5 mile. So now you have to go 5 mile here, and I have to filter through it and find another 5 mile over here. And the fact that they're in vertical lines makes it really, really hard to interpret and filter through the information. So that's why I do this specifically. So you can see that they're color coded, okay? And these bold ones up here are things that I'm primarily focused on, okay? But I have 6 miles, 7 miles, 8 miles, 9, 10, 11, 12. And you can see that I have the miles per hour in these columns. So right now I'm kind of in a what I call a moment of rebuilding. I'm not breaking my records. I'm just kind of recouping, gaining strength, gaining speed back, resting muscle fibers, etc. When I start breaking my times again, I give them one of these um, pinkish purple marks on it, and it indicates that I broke my record again. Okay, but the kicker is this: I can literally just scroll. Like if I picked 8 miles right here, I could just scroll down. Oh wait, that's a bad one because I didn't do very many eights recently. So we'll do 6. Okay, so 6. We can go just scroll down, and we have all of these 6 miles that we can pull the speeds from, and then we can look back at when we ran that fast. And but I can do that for my 8, my 9, all of them. Okay? I can do that for my 4s, my 3s. This is the advantage of not having them all put in a vertical line. Another thing to kind of keep in mind is now the way that the charts work. It is a little bit different, but I hope that it makes sense. I have a current chart that are like my current records, absolute best. Spike in performance, peak in performance, okay? I have a 3-month average and a 6-month average. The 9 and 12 do not matter as much. It is more what you've been doing in the last 3 months that matters, and is that better than what you've been doing in the last 6 months? That's really what you should be looking at, okay? Because if your 3-month speeds are looking the same as your 6-month speeds, well, are you pushing hard enough? Are you improving now? But since all of these are color coded with these distances up here, I can go, okay, this blue one, 6 miles. Okay, well, how high is it here? Okay, well, 6 miles, 10 miles an hour. But the average is lower. I kind of did something to screw up those numbers, so that's why it's lower for the 6 months, and that's why my 7 mile is higher. But you can kind of see that my 3 months and my 6 months for my 7 mile, this red one, are about the same. My 8 mile are about the same. But then my this green one for the 9, well, it's lower. The 10, it is lower. And then the 11, well, the reason that's off is because I'm just starting to do 11s more again. And then the 12s, it's kind of off because I'm starting to do 12s again. But after a few months, it will kind of filter itself out. But you can kind of see how the trend line is going, and how, like, you can really see it when you look at the 12-month versus like the 6-month or something. You can see how much lower these ones are compared to the 3-month. So you can go, what have I really been changing, and where have I been improving in my distances and my speeds? And there's a whole bunch of junk that I have up here by going getting the monthly averages and quarterly averages together and things like that. But mainly, don't worry about that. Just worry about putting these on an Excel sheet and stretching them out horizontally for each mile. That will allow you to look at the data so much more with so much more clarity. Okay? Occasionally, very, very, very occasionally, an hour and a half, 2 hours. But I like to usually keep them within 30 minutes and an hour. And I have specific reasons that I do that when I'm trying to do a certain type of a training. But you can see my monthly averages and what my monthly averages were in speed. Just reading off the numbers before didn't make a lot of sense. But seeing it here, you can clearly see that there's a progression of improvement of my times getting shorter. And then, yeah, there are some things here, but it's like, well, when did I run crazy long distance for that month? Well, there you go. That's when the time went up like crazy, because I was running extremely more mileages during those times, or I changed something up. So, and then maybe my body's just crazy worn out. So that's kind of what this shows you for as far as speeds, but you can definitely see that the speeds are going down. And then this is this. So this is the times. This is the speeds. But you can see. So the time is going down, and then here the speeds are going up. Okay. So this is what having this data month after month will allow you to do. Okay, you can actually easily see, instead of just the raw data, you can actually make sense of it. and you can actually see your improvement easier. And sometimes these numbers are not going to be that far off. Like these three, well, I still was trending upwards. But that's one thing too, is a lot of people get discouraged because they feel that they can't see improvement. But, you know, start keeping track of this stuff, putting it in Excel sheets, making charts, and you'll be able to start seeing this stuff better. So, and then down here, this is the last one where we have the monthly mileage. So you can see for a long time, my body was just kind of broken, and I was stuck at 80 miles a month, and it just hurt. And here's a time where I tried, but my body just was not ready to accept my training, and it was not ready. So I had to go back into what I was doing, kind of a therapy mode, kind of a mood, and I continued to build up more strength in my frame, not even in running, jogging, or trotting, just to be able to structurally hold myself correctly. And then eventually I tried it again, but then this time it was able to, and I was able to maintain these higher mileages and higher speeds. And then you can look at, so you can kind of look at this section and go, hey, I increased my mileage here, but then hey, here I am, and yeah, initially my speeds went down, but then they kind of rebounded pretty quickly. So my body kind of accepted that new increase in speeds. So this is all that I'm going to show on this one. There's a lot more that I could go into, but I'm just trying to keep it simplistic, and I'm probably already going too complicated as it is. Okay, so we talked about intervals briefly. Well, the thing is, if you take your interval distances and you figure out how fast you did your intervals in, you can actually make charts like this. Now this is about 3 months of data. So you can see the distance that I was going, how many sets I did for them, because effectively, how many intervals did you do? Well, and how many you did is how many sets you did, really, realistically, if you relate it to weightlifting. And so you can kind of see the distance and then the speeds. And but it allows you to take your raw interval data and make it into readable charts, so where you can actually see improvement. And I have some shorter ones that are up over here. Oh, there you go. You can see them. And it's like, okay, well, 4 of them and 800s, and then what the speeds are. But you can kind of see where I'm not going to go into what I'm doing now, because people would look at this and go, oh, look, it's leveling off. I'm not improving anymore. I have a trick or two up my sleeve, which I'm experimenting on. So I'll say, yeah, I am not increasing in speed, but I'm doing something else. And I just want to have some more time to do some more research on this one, because it is being promising what I'm doing. So I will just kind of come back to that one later. Okay, so this is kind of a combination of the freestyle running logs and then all the training you're doing in general. Okay, and you put it together on a chart, and of course these white squares are days off. Now I could look at this and I could even argue with myself going, I need to take more days off. But this allows you at a glance to kind of go, when you're looking at your other charts and you start doing better at your speeds, for like your cruising running, you may go, well, what was I doing here that made my body kind of jump up in performance? What kind of intervals was I doing? What kind of training was I doing at that time? How many days did I have off of breaks? Did I give myself enough breaks? Putting the data in a calendar really helps kind of break that stuff down like that. And then here you can see where I have sore throat at the end, and then sick, lungs clearing, and then it stopped around the 7th of February. I'm pretty sure that's when I had COVID, because I just had this sore throat, and it just started hurting on my way back from I think it was either a 14 or 15 mile run. And it's like, man, this thing really hurts. And then the next day, boom, I was just miserable. And uh, but once I got over the cold, it was just getting the crap out of my lungs, which there was a lot, and there's a lot of wheeziness in the lungs from that. But once I got that cleared up, man, I felt good. I felt on fire. And so that's kind of why things like that they may want to put into a log too. So if you kind of go running down by the park, like sometimes I like to go in the summertime, I like to go down to the park and actually jump into the river, swim about a quarter of a mile, and then I run around the park, which is a little bit more than a mile, and then I just jump back in the river again. Well, when it's 106 degrees, I love doing this because right when you start to dry off doing that mile run and start getting a little bit too hot, boom, you're jumping back in the 50, 55 degree river again and freezing your butt off. So it's really nice to do in the summertime because you just stay so cool doing it. So something to consider, having a calendar where you can put in this stuff and then review it as you kind of see patterns that are in your other charts of going back and forth. Okay. There's a whole discussion on when you should weigh yourself, how you should weigh yourself. Simply put, I weigh myself a lot, and I have the breakdown of over 2 years of data, and we can all agree this is way too much information to make any sense of with the human brain. It's just too much data, okay? And you see the time where I was sick there again because I color coded a certain thing. But this is just way too much data to make any sense, okay? So what I do is I have weekly averages here that are coming off to the side. Now, that's the important part. Those weekly averages are thrown into this chart right next to it where these are the weekly averages here. And now these weekly averages are charted out. Let me clear that out. So we have my weight being around 190 and now where it is right now, around 157. But you can see the progression of week to week of my weight going down. Here's my body fat in poundage as it's going down. Here's my body fat percentage as it's going down. Here's my water percentage going up in my body. Here is my BMI, which I really don't care about too much, but I still have it here. And then here are my increase in speeds monthly. So weekly, monthly. But it's kind of interesting to see how my weight is going down, my fat is going down, my fat percentage, my water is going up, how my water going up pattern reflects my speed increase pattern. They're really close together. This is a very close pattern to what's happening over here. And keep in mind, one of the things that you have to worry about when you're doing distance is how much fluid volume you have in yourself, blood and water. Because as you get dehydrated and you start sweating and you start just exercising more, you're going to sweat more. Well, that's going to actually start to thicken up your blood. Well, as you start to thicken up your blood, that's actually going to affect your cardio ability and your ability to run because you're getting dehydrated. So when you're hydrated, you actually have better blood flow. As you get dehydrated, you get worse blood flow. So that's one reason that there can be a benefit with better hydration and speeds. Okay, but then also there's muscles, but then feeding the oxygen into the muscle and a lot of fun stuff like that. Okay, but again, another discussion. But this is how you make the data make sense. If you're weighing yourself a lot, like you can do it daily, which I do like every other day usually. But then here's the weekly averages. That weekly average, and even if you weigh yourself once a week, okay, that's gonna be good. You know, but this is how you make sense of all of that raw data. Is you literally just put it down and then you put it onto charts. Charts makes everything so much more simpler. Okay. I do and I don't want to get into this real quick. So here's another thing that you can kind of do. when you run a distance, okay? Uh, let's say that you run. So, you can kind of see the mouse over here. So you run 5 miles, okay? And you do really good, and you PR, and so the next time that I do a little gray block here, if I run 10.5 miles an hour for 5 miles, I will literally fill up all of these blocks with a gray block, because then I ran 5 miles at that speed, okay? And then let's say, hey, a few weeks later, I run a 10 mile and I did it really good, and I did 10 miles at 10 miles an hour. Well, I'd fill up all of these blocks. What this allows you to do is see your natural running curve. So we all pretty much will agree that if you do a shorter distance, you can run faster, and as you run a longer distance, you will run slower. Okay, at what rate of decay? As you increase distance, how much slower can you expect to run? How much, if you wanted to go do a hour-and-a-half run, what speed should you be looking at to do that distance for? So this allows you to kind of have an idea of what distance and what speed you can do. Besides just looking at your times, you can actually go, oh wait, I just improved really good with my 6, 7, and 8. Maybe I can run my 5 mile faster now. But you can kind of see this natural curve that's pushing up for my distances. Okay? There is another one that I have over here for my intervals that I can do that's in way more detail than this. This is just a very general one. This chart is meant to count for my long distances. And I think this next one is the correct one. So, and it's like, well, then here we go for so that first one, this one had like quarter of miles in here. That's every one of these is a quarter mile between these lines, so that's why it's a little bit wider. But then this one is just only per mile, and I don't update this one as much. But you can see it's like, well, it goes up to 26 miles, and then so if I was going to run a marathon today, well, where would I expect to be? But keep in mind, I don't update this chart very much, so it's outdated. But I know exactly what speed I'd need to run at if I was going to do 26 miles today. If I was going to do it today, I know exactly what speed I would need to hit. So this is kind of an advantage of going, as you change your speed and your distance, you kind of have a different idea of miles per hour to go. And I focus on miles per hour, not time. I have reasons. Another video. Last one, and this is very, very complicated, okay? If you are on a treadmill and you are going for an hour or 2 hours nonstop at the same speed, if you take your heart rate at every single mile, that's all that these are. Heart rates. Heart rate data. But again, the numbers only mean so much. Now, if you take that exact same data and you throw it into a chart, you end up with these. And like this red one right here, you can see how it's higher than this yellow one. Well, this yellow one is actually a faster speed. But my body, my blood vessels, my heart adapted to that speed, and they weren't as panicking as much. So my heart rate was lower. And then started going faster again. Well, then it picked up, then it picked up, then it picked up. But eventually, what would happen is my heart rate would go down again. This allows you to see the numbers to kind of go, oh, where am I at? When is it starting to increase too much? Besides feeling what your muscle limitations are, this is a way you can kind of track your circulatory system limitations, your heart and your blood vessels together working together. They're the plumbing of your body. So this is a way that you can kind of figure out that on a treadmill, but you have to be running the same speed the whole time, and that's the trick behind it. But then getting that heart rate, jotting it down for every single mile, you can get some interesting data off of it. This is very complex stuff. But some of you may be looking at this and being able to figure out how you can use it for your advantage. No problem. Cool. Go do it. But I'll get into this later. But this is very advanced stuff. This is fine-tuned tweaking stuff. Okay? We aren't there yet. This guy here, that is pretty important too. I tell people, keep track of your sleep. Especially if you are kind of new, because you may not be getting as much sleep as you think. A lot of people think that they oversleep, but then they kind of don't know exactly when they fall asleep or when they went to bed, but then they just know what time they got up. Well, I guess the best way to put it is, if you kind of do a log of when you tried to start sleeping, and then when you got up, at least you're going to have a better idea than not doing a log at all. But because of this chart here, this is why I actually decided to quit my job that I had. So this top one up here is actually when I was in the Air Force. And as you can see, this gray section, it has the times. I would go to bed at like 6 in the morning. I'd sleep until 3 in the afternoon. But then I had, I'm sorry, got it the other way. 11 o'clock at night to 8 in the morning, that's when I was working. And then from, 9 to 4 o'clock, I had that time to sleep, okay? And then I pretty much had 5-6 hours that I could work out and then go to work. So it was complementary in me being able to actually, get plenty of sleep, do my job, and get enough time to exercise. And then here was a job most recent job that I had, and this gray is like when I was working, but the thing is, they were throwing around the schedules several hours, plus and minus. So sometimes I'd have to be there at 4 in the morning, sometimes I'd have to be there at 1 at night, and this orange is just kind of showing where my body was getting used to sleeping. So my body really only was getting used to getting 6 hours of sleep, and that was it. But then where do I work out? Well, then if I did it here, I'd have to throw it somewhere after work, but then I'm behind on sleep. So it's like, well, do I really want to go work out, or do I want to try to get some more sleep that I'm lacking? And the fact that it was being thrown around so much plus and minus, it made working out and training really, really hard. I mean, it could have been done, but at the level that I was trying to go at the time, my sleep was too irregular to efficiently train with the intensity that I wanted to. So I quit. Eventually I just said, hey, either you keep me on the I can't go from a 1 o'clock to a 4 a.m. But no problem. I could do like a 1 and a 10 a.m. or a 9 a.m. But throwing me that far a.m. is just, I'm not getting sleep. I can't, and they said, no, we can't do anything about it. We're making everybody do it. And I was like, okay, I quit. And the first day that it was implemented was my last day on shift. I was like, well, that's that, And they made sure that I do that first day because they were having a staffing problem. So they made sure that I did that one day there. And like, oh, well, how a 2-week notice. Well, it doesn't count on the day. It counts the day, the next day after that. And I'm like, whatever. But anyway, consider monitoring your sleep. I've also done water logs. And a lot of people will have, just a water jug and 36 ounces, and then how much water should you drink? Well, I'm not going to get into that one in this video, but if you have a water jug, 32 ounces, it's really easy to go, you have your number that you want to have how many of these a day? Well, when you complete drinking one, you put it in that hour block. Yep, got one here. Oh, 2 hours later, got one here. 3 hours later, got one here. Well, if you're trying to do 3, 4 of these a day, well, there you go. If you're trying to do 8 of these a day, just put it right in the little time block right when you finish drinking it. And this could be on a little pad of paper that you have with you or something like that. But having a water log of, even if it's for a month, going, am I drinking enough water? But when I'm hydrated, my coach used to call it piscine, peeing clear, even though it doesn't go with it, but peeing clear, piscine. That's when I'd kind of slow down on the hydration. But it's like whenever my, urine is a brown, gold color, well, I would pretty much always be drinking to get more fluids into me. But once it's clear and once you're going off and it's like, well, how do you really need to be more hydrated? Nah, that's kind of a discussion in itself. Okay, so that's the second thing, sleeping log and a drinking log. If you're going to do any of these charts, this is the one that you should do. Putting them vertically limits what you can see and your perspective so much. But stretching them out horizontally, am I saying that right? Putting them down vertically but stretching them out horizontally allows you to have reference, so much more reference to your running distances and speeds. And that is going to help you immensely envision where should you be and where are you going. So just start off by possibly putting them into your phone, putting them into an Excel sheet one by one. I'm probably eventually going to have to make this available somehow, probably in a Drive platform. But just putting it down and then stretching them out like this, you can start making these charts. And you can start seeing what are you doing your 6 miles in consecutively. What are you running your 8 and your 10 miles in consecutively. And it allows you to start seeing when you improve and where you improve. So this is the key one that I do, especially if you're a beginner. And I am going to go more into detail on the other charts in the later videos, but I just wanted to kind of cover just how crazy you can go with the data collection that you can do. And as crazy as this sounds, since I've been doing this for so long, it's 2022, so 2009. So since I've been doing this for 13 years, I literally read this like a book now. Like literally, I can go back in time years and I can see what I was doing here and here, and I can just change my training now to get the benefits that I had then. I'm literally reading a story with numbers, but having the charts and the graphs helps understand the why so much more too. And yeah, it is kind of crazy to go, hey, data entry, but it allows you to see when you're working too hard, when you've just increased in your run times, where you had a spike in performance. Okay, now should I be expecting to run a little bit slower here and there because, hey, I just wore myself out? These things matter when it comes to your overall progression, because it's too easy for us to get into a mental state of, oh, I'm not going hard enough. Oh, I'm going too hard. And that negativity gets to us. But look at this example right here. It's like, well, here's these pink ones where you can see where I ran really good times. And then, okay, well, these ones aren't filled in with that dot. Well, they're slower, but I'm probably right now actively in a time of recovery than I am actually breaking my record. So probably in a week or two, I'll be getting close to these record times again for myself, PRing, and I'll start breaking more and more times again. But your runs will go up and down in performance. You'll have a lot of time where you're going faster, then you'll kind of slow down a little bit, faster, slow down a bit. And that natural waving is normal. Very, very normal. But now you can actually see it a lot more clear overall. And that's the real purpose. So sorry, it's a lot of information. I'm probably gonna have to redo this and make it much more simplified. There's a lot to this. I'm sorry, but yeah. Uh, so hopefully this was able to kind of give you an idea of how crazy you can go with charts. But if you like this video, uh, hit subscribe. It's very much appreciated. If you have questions, please put it in the comments. I will do everything I can to reply to your comments. And I'm eventually going to have a Running Coalescence question and answer channel. I'm also going to have a live and interview channel where I actually interview other people and coaches, athletes, things like that. And right now it is just the Running Coalescence channel, and soon to be the Q&A channel. But feel free to put questions. I don't care if you're seasoned, if you're new, if you're a senior runner, if you're just a kid just starting off. I don't care. Just write up a question, let me know, and I'll see if I can get back to it, okay? Um, and yeah, that's all I got. Subscribe, put a comment, and you guys have a nice day. I really appreciate you guys watching the video. Thank you.